Now, the Al-Shabaab has said it is responsible for last night's attack on a public service bus in Witu area of Lamu County. At least 7 people were killed in the attack that attracted an immediate massive response by KDF soldiers, the police and the Kenya Police Reservist. The AFP news agency has quoted the Al-Shabaab spokesman Abdulaziz Musab saying the attack was in response to the Kenyan security operation reports in Lamu. KTN's senior coast reporter Ferdinand Mondi caught up with an injured officer from Lamu. Right, and Ferdinand Mondi joins us on a phone link. Fadi, good afternoon, Fadi.
Good afternoon.
Please just bring us up to speed with what we know now from yesterday's night attack.
Well, as you know now, at least 7 people have died from the last evening. I speak for this man who is now recovered in the hospital, and he said that about him. He was from the rural border patrol unit, the administrative police, and they were driving along the way to Mteketoni Road at about 6 p.m. when they saw a bus across the road. The initial intention or the initial perception was that this was a stuck bus, but as they approached, they had gunshots, so they took cover and immediately engaged the attackers there. He said some of them were inside the bus harassing the passengers, and others were guarding it. And next thing he knew, he was feeling pain in his stomach. He had been shot. When he woke up, he was already in hospital. But from that encounter, we understand 4 policemen lost their lives. There were a driver of a probox that also stopped next to the bus who was slaughtered. My initial, it does appear that the attackers wanted to hijack that bus, and if the police had not responded in due time and the stroke of luck they had, perhaps they would be telling a very different story.
Just allow me to bring you back to just exactly the details of what happened yesterday night, because that this happened yesterday night. There was an attempted attack to hijack this bus, but they were word off by the police, by the security. Have you spoken to residents? What are they saying?
Well, there are a lot of security forces trying to comb the forests of this area. This area is very dense, and what they're saying is that they're still trying to track down these people. Now, it is very interesting that Al-Shabaab are claiming responsibility. Perhaps they're trying to say that you're going to be here, but we'll still conduct the attacks. They have gone rather guerrilla, because, James, not only are the police forces here, we also have the paramilitary GSU, we have the Kenya Defense Forces, and even the special forces within KDF, that is the most qualified fighters that Kenya have, are also in this area. So it also does look that these attackers themselves are not ordinary people. They're very strategic. They know what they are doing, and somehow they are escaping the dragnet mounted by our own soldiers. But as I can tell you now, we just met some of them looking like they've been combing this area. So it is right now still cat and mouse, and if it is Shabaab, as they said, then still this area is in a bit of trouble, because so far no arrests have been made that can really prove that the attackers are now under control.
Fadi, allow me to bring you your experience and expertise in covering this area, Fadi. And just recently we knew that the Kenya Defense Forces has been involved in the operations there. So we pretty much have all the country's security forces in Lamu or around Lamu. Ferdinand, the question is, you already speak to residents. When you go around and make your rounds and talk to people, talk to the security agencies and sources and everything, do you feel that people are feeling some sense of security, that the situation is becoming back to normal?
James, I would have to say negative on that, because for a simple reason, in spite of the very heavy presence of forces here, the attacks are still continuing. And a lot of people, I understand, are still not spending nights in their homes. When it gets to evening, they find solace. We still have thousands of people, for example, in Hindi, at least 2,000, spending every night within the confines of the Hindi prison, where they feel they're a bit safer there. So yes, these operations are going on, but as long as the killings go on, there is a lot of tension. And that's why sometimes you hear there are flyers coming out saying certain people should leave. Next time you hear that even when there's an accident, people have been involved in a brawl, people first of all think it's the attackers who made their moves. So there is a lot of consternation about the safety of the people here. The government is doing, I believe, all it can to reassure the people, but unless the killings stop, these areas, especially in Lamu, are now coming to scenario because Kamba was attacked the other day. It does appear that it is still not under their control, and the locals, I speak to them daily, they don't feel safe at all. They don't.
All right. Ferdinand Omondi, our senior coast reporter, they are looking forward to your report that you will file for our subsequent bulletin later on. Let's move on now to some politics. And CORD's Referendum Agenda has received support from a section of leaders in Ukambani. The leaders, led by Makueni Governor Professor Kivuta Kibwana, say the community is fully in support of Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, and they are not seeking a replacement. The leaders were among mourners who thronged Kalulu Farm to bid farewell to the late Frederick Mulinge Kalulu, who served as Member of Parliament from Mboni constituency for 3 terms, the last ending in 1997. Leaders led by the Wiper Democratic Movement leader Kalonzo Musyoka and Makueni County Governor Professor Kivuta Kibwana led mourners in eulogizing the fallen leader as someone who served people with love and selflessness. Kibwana said the region should do everything possible to support Kalonzo for the 2017 presidential bid. The late Kalulu was laid to rest in his farm in Kitunda village, Makueni County.
Hiyo tuseme kabisa kwamba huku kwetu kinara ni Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. Mtu yoyote akitaka kuzungumza kisiasa, kimaendeleo, kinini, yeye ndio atatuzungumzia.
Right now, incidents of suicide in Embu County have now become a matter of great concern to the county government, which is now contemplating seeking the intervention of psychologists. The Governor, Martin Nyaga Wambora, has issued an alert to parents, elders and other stakeholders to join hands in an effort to address the situation. Wambora was speaking at his home in Runyanges during the burial of his younger brother, the late Silas Njiru Wambora, who plunged to his death at the Ntenge Njeru waterfall. Until his death, the Njiru was working as a deputy public officer in Embu County.
Tusidharau hawa wazee na kina mama. Wakati uko na tabu, unaenda kwa parents, kwa wazee, kwa kina mama, unapewa advice mzuri, maisha inaendelea. Hakuna huwezi isha maisha bila tabu. Tuko na ile ministry kwa county inaitwa Gender, Children, Culture and Social Services. Na tutafanya pamoja na hawa tuone. Kuna group wameanza wanaita Boys to Men, Super Dads and all that. Ndivyo turudi pale tulikuwa ya good social development.
Right now, fire broke out at Isinya Multi-Purpose Development Training Center, where Education Cabinet Secretary Professor Prof Kaimenyi was presiding over Kajiado Education Day. The fire started after a man threw a cigarette on the dry grass, which spread first into the school and nearby field. In less than half an hour, the fire had burned all the grass in an estimated 30-acre piece of land. Students and security officers who were in a public function tried in vain to put out the fire. Area pastoralists were distressed by the tragedy since the county is currently experiencing a dry spell. The residents are urging the county government to invest in fire engines in order to avert such calamities. No one was injured in the fire. All right, Deputy President William Ruto has directed the Minister of Education and the National Treasury to ensure that money for subsidized secondary and free primary school education is in schools by Monday. Speaking at Karinga Girls Secondary School, where he officiated a fundraiser, Ruto emphasized that going forward, the monies must reach the schools before the schools open so that the school program is not affected. Ruto at the same time reiterated that schools heads still holding certificates of students of arrears are breaking the law. He directed that any school head with issues regarding that order should hold discussions with the government after releasing the certificates. He noted that some students have been waiting for their certificates for more than 10 years.
How can any reasonable person withhold a certificate from an already disadvantaged kid whose parents cannot afford. And we compound that problem by denying them their certificates so that they are not employable, they cannot go anywhere. What kind of a heart do you need to have? It is an act of impunity for anybody to negotiate, to try and negotiate with the law. When the law says this is the position, that is the position.
Education Cabinet Secretary Professor Prof Kaimenyi says the government is building new schools that will boost education and cater for the needs of students with special needs. He was speaking at Isinya's multi-purpose grounds during the Kajiado County Education Day.
Doing all that you can do, seeing all that you can see.
It was not their choice. But then we have this terrible negative attitude of our people. Simply because a child is born with certain malformations. We've seen instances where they are chained. Did you see that? To the extent that somebody has amputated their limbs. What a grave violation of the law and insensitivity by some of us. I believe you know certain cases where children have been neglected for a long time. But you are guilty of conspiracy, of silence, and terrible silence. So as you stand there, as you look at me, please tujali maslahi ya wengine.
All right, business came to a stop at the Nairobi Railway's bus terminus yesterday following protests from Matatu operators. The operators were protesting the death of one of their colleagues. The death was bound on one of the traffic police officers on duty at the bus station. The police officer allegedly pushed the conductor from a Matatu after he failed to honor a demand for a 50-shilling bribe. An oncoming vehicle ran over the conductor on Haile Selassie Street.
As of now, it is clear. Any development, I will keep it.
Ni askari civilian, yani wale wanajulikana kama malaino in Nairobi. Ndiye alikuwa anataka shilingi 50 kutoka kwa huyo jamaa. Ikawa huyu jamaa anamwambia ngoja kidogo. Ile jamaa kuenda mbele akamfuta na gari ilikuwa inasonga ikampiga.
Still the roads, and the chairman of the Matatu Owners Association, Simon Kimutai, is now calling on government to allow 14-seater Matatus to operate in some areas, which are instead of doing away with all of them. He has further urged the government to give Matatu owners time to secure the required vehicles with a bigger capacity. He was speaking in Thika during the launch of 10 new Matatus by Manchester Travels Transport Company. The chairman also asked his colleagues in the industry to accept cashless mode of payment, saying this is the only way owners can ensure they receive all their revenue. Kiambu County Governor William Kabogo urged the Matatu operators to maintain discipline in the industry in order to gain the trust of passengers.
14-seater should not be condemned. Itafanya sehemu mingi sana. Right now, 80% of business in public transport is handled by 14-seaters. So we can't all migrate, but in areas where it's economically viable, it is important to move with times.
All right, now the Kajiado County government has sworn in the first county land management board in the country to deal with the often controversial land issues there. Kajiado is rated 3rd after Kiambu and Lamu counties for land grabbing and corruption. The county government has announced that it will lift the ban on land transaction as land matters are resolved. The county banned all land transactions in July last year due to an outcry by the public over land-related corruption scandals. Speaking during the swearing-in of the 8-member board, the National Land Commissioner Abdikadir Khalif and Kajiado County Governor David Nkendiane asked the board to raise the bar in handling land matters.
Commissioners present from schools, from hospitals. So in future we will not be able to build hospitals. We will have to buy land. If you people come and join those people, those cartels, we will continue buying land in future, and your children will also not have a place for a school or a dispensary. Because I trust in this team, I expect that you will turn that around. you will help to turn that around. And I can assure you that it is so easy for you to succeed because this county is at the lowest ebb. Any effort you make will be recognized.
Now, some sports news now, and the national women's volleyball team held their final training session Saturday morning as they are scheduled to depart Nairobi for Mexico on Monday ahead of the World Grand Prix to be held in Mexico, which starts on 25th of July 2014 in the Mexico City.
Mexico will host the 11th edition of the FIVB World Grand Prix tournament, which Kenya will be taking part for the first time. The African queens are yet to cause ripples at the world stage despite dominating in Africa. Algeria is the only other Africa team taking part, and Kenya's head tactician David Lungao will be leading his charges to attempt at least one match victory.
They have to perform, they have no choice, and we believe in them, so we are going to bring better results.
Tuko sawa na tumejitayarisha vizuri, tunangoja kucheza tu.
Young starlet Edith Wisa, barely 20, will be making her international debut together with Noel Murambi.
I can see myself have really improved, and this is really encouraging me to keep on working more hard and improve more because I've not reached the maximum.
Old players tunaelekea kutoka. Sasa lazima bond old na young, ndio tukitoka tutawacha hawa kama wameshashika moto.
These are players that we are going to depend on in the next 2 or 3 years. So our focus mainly is the All-African Games next year and the Olympics of 2016.
Kenya is in Group P with Algeria, Mexico and Bulgaria. After the Mexico assignment, teams will travel to Croatia to face off host Croatia, Bulgaria and Australia before the finals, which will serve off in Somakov, Bulgaria. The Kenyan queens of volleyball have failed to sparkle in a number of their recent international outing. But with that in mind, all these ladies need to restore their status and become the African volleyball queens they used to be. Moses Wahesi, KTN Sports.
Well, that does it for us here at KTN Weekend at 1. You've done well to keep me company. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. My name is James Smart.